All of you Disney lovers watching are probably wondering who could hate Disney World. And the rest of you might be wondering, am I going to be on this list? Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. If you're on the fence about whether or not you should go to Disney World, then this video is for you. Also, if you've got people in your life who you're not sure if you should take them to Disney World, let's take a watch on this one as well. There are always going to be people who will love Disney no matter what, but if you're not sure if you'll have a good time, then you're going to want to pay attention. We've got the tips to help you have a great time in Disney World, even if you're someone who's sure you're going to hate it. And we're also going to be honest about who's probably going to not love going to this theme park haven. All right, number one, people who might hate Disney World, spontaneous travelers. If you like to wing it, all of the planning that goes into a Disney vacation may take the fun out of the experience for you. Typically, you can start booking your dining reservations 180 days ahead of your trip. 6 months in advance. Now, right now, Disney's shortened that time frame to 60 days due to the COVID restrictions, but to be honest, that's still pretty far in advance, and that's one of the last things you're going to need to book when planning your trip. As soon as you get your tickets, you can book your park passes. These are required to enter any of Disney World's theme parks, and they are limited, meaning if you wait too long, they may not be available. Since park capacity and crowd levels are pretty hard to predict right now, we don't have a solid recommendation on when you should book your park passes other than as soon as you can. As soon as you know when you'll be going to Disney World, get those tickets, book those passes, and lock in your park days. This is particularly true if you're traveling over spring break or going to the parks in October when Disney World is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Dates are already starting to sell out or have limited availability for park passes over those timeframes. So are you already starting to sweat if you're a spontaneous traveler who just wants to wing it? Yeah, I totally understand. But there's more. While you don't need to worry about it right now, when FastPass comes back, by the way, FastPass is how you can sort of skip the lines and not have to wait in really, really long lines to ride rides in Disney World, you're going to want to be ready to book your time slot to skip that standby line as soon as possible. Before the park closures, it was 60 days in advance for people staying at Walt Disney World-owned hotels and 30 days for others. If you want to ride the top ride in Disney World, Rise of the Resistance, you won't have to worry about it 2 months in advance, but if you don't plan ahead, you will miss out. You gotta know how the virtual queue process works. Have all your family, their tickets, and their park passes linked up in the My Disney Experience app. We've talked about it on the channel before. And be ready to go early in the morning of your Hollywood Studios day. You're gonna have to try to get that boarding pass at 7 a.m. If you miss that virtual queue, you won't be able to ride this one since there is no standby line. So there is definitely planning involved for this guy. Now, dining reservations, park passes, fast pass, they're all gonna get booked up if you wait too long. So you should do all of your planning and be ready to book at least 3 months before your trip, if not 6 months. You're also going to want to have a plan for what time of day you want to ride certain rides while FastPass isn't running, and when you'll be eating your meals, even if you aren't planning to dine at restaurants that need reservations. You can do some things on the fly, but you'll likely end up missing out on a lot if you wait until midday to start hopping in line for the most popular rides in the park. You'll spend all your time in line rather than actually doing stuff if you don't plan ahead. Now, if you're not someone who likes to make plans in advance, at least plan your trip around lower crowds. Head to the parks early to ride more rides before things get too crowded, and plan to eat meals at off times, meaning not normal meal times. Eat lunch super early or eat dinner very late. You'll be more likely to find some last-minute reservations through Disney's walk-up waitlist feature that lets you see which restaurants near you have availability right now. Overall, we'd still highly recommend booking your park passes and a few advanced dining reservations when your booking window opens so you aren't leaving anything to chance. You'll still have time for a little spontaneity on your trip, but yeah, Disney World is gonna be best for those folks who like to plan ahead. All right, number 2, person who's gonna hate Disney World, people who hate lines. Yeah, standing in lines is a part of Disney World. Even when crowds are low, there's just no way around it. The people who won't wait in line for more than 5 minutes are gonna be living in a nightmare if they aren't prepared for the number of lines you'll experience in your Disney trip. I'm just trying to be totally honest with you. In addition to all those expected lines for rides, you might encounter lines where you're absolutely not expecting them. Picking up your mobile ordered lunch, to get into a store to buy cookies, Virtual queues can make things a little better as you won't have to physically stand in every line, but even if you only need to wait 5 minutes, it's going to be 5 minutes here and then 5 minutes there and then 5 minutes somewhere else. So while lines are everywhere, there are some ways to at least reduce the amount of time you spend standing in lines. Like I mentioned to our spontaneous travelers, go to the parks early before crowds get heavy and lines hit their peak. Dine at those off times to avoid waiting a long time to get your lunch. Also, take advantage of virtual queues whenever possible. You'll mostly see these at stores, so keep your eye out for a sign with a QR code that will let you sign up for the virtual queue. Do that well in advance of when you want to shop, because a lot of times you will see a physical queue and a virtual queue, so choose a virtual queue when you can. All right, the next group of folks who are probably going to hate Disney World a lot of the time are those crowd-averse people. Now, I get it. We all hate crowds, but some people just really can't handle them. Myself kind of included. Even with the limited capacity at Disney World at the moment, you will still experience crowds and more people, especially than you're used to right now after a year of being in a pandemic where we've been told to basically not gather in large groups. It can be kind of surprising and shocking to be around that many people. Now, the current park capacity is 35%. We've rarely seen parks actually hit that capacity limit, but there are times when things have definitely felt cramped for our reporters in the parks. When it rains, people will seek shelter under awnings or in alcoves, and these areas tend to pack out fast. Your only alternative is to head out into the weather. So keep an eye on rainstorms with the weather app and come prepared with a poncho so you don't need to seek out an overcrowded shelter. When character cavalcades are rolling through, people also tend to crowd around to see their favorite characters. Those are those basically mini parades that are happening, even though parades technically aren't happening. Now, these happen a lot throughout the day. So if the first time Mickey cruises by there are just too many people, then wait until later in the day. You'll get a bit closer. There are a few pinch points and tighter areas in the parks that tend to have larger crowds throughout the day. An example is the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot. Sometimes it has a line to get into the pyramid. This area is real narrow, so things can get a little people-y over there for sure. Just keep an eye out for large crowds and maybe head to a different part of the park if one area is too crowded for your liking. That's why it's always good to keep your plans flexible. And don't forget, if you can go to Disney World when nobody else is going, and by that I mean don't go on weekends or long weekends or holiday weekends. Don't go in the summer when schools are out. Don't go on other school vacations like spring break. Don't go during the holidays. If you can hit it up during a weekday when everyone else is in work and school, you're going to run into much, much, much fewer crowds. Okay, another group of people who may really have a problem with Disney World are those thrill seekers. Now, Disney's got a few more thrilling rides, but it's certainly no Cedar Point. Test Track is the fastest ride in Disney World, topping out at 64.9 miles per hour. Rock and Roller Coaster has some inversions and a 0 to 60 mile per hour launch. Tower of Terror has drops, but that's as thrilling as you're gonna get. Disney World isn't topping any most intense coasters list. The parks are created to be enjoyed by the whole family, so most rides are accessible for you and your kid. While a lot of rides at Disney World have height requirements, there are lots of coasters and thrill rides that your younger kids can ride. If you want some serious thrills, plan a day at Universal for Rip Ride Rocket and the Hulk Coaster. Universal and Disney World are only about 20 minutes away from each other, and it's easy to do a split trip between the two parks if you're looking to please some Disney lovers and some thrill seekers. All right, now this group of people is definitely gonna have a problem with Disney World, but to be fair, we have a problem with everything. And these are the grumpy Guses and negative Nancies, myself included. A lot of things can go wrong in Disney World. There's so much planning, so many lines, a ton of people. It's so expensive. And the people who complain all the time, like me, are gonna be at a full complaint buffet in Disney World. The only advice we can give if you're traveling with some negative Nancies, or you are a negative Nancy, is to keep your cool and have a good attitude. Things will go wrong. You will need to switch your plans around. You will walk a lot. You will get tired and cranky. You will feel like it's not worth the money. But you're also going to have some fun, hopefully, and spend a ton of quality time with your family. You may eat some delicious food, hopefully, if you're watching our videos, and ride some world-class rides as well, of course. You just have to keep your perspective in line, and you have to try to keep your positive attitude as much as you can. Now, we're always giving you advice on how to fix problems in Disney World and be prepared for when things go wrong, but it's important to remember that for everything that does go wrong, there will be plenty of stuff that goes right. If you find yourself complaining, take a breath, try to move past it. You'll have a much better trip. Everyone around you is going to have a better trip. So be prepared for things to go wrong. Have a plan for how you're going to handle your emotions if it does. And also give yourself some time to escape. If you just need to get away for a little bit, if you need to regroup, be alone, do something that you enjoy to kind of recalibrate, then definitely build that into your trip. If you're the kind of person who knows you need that, make it happen. Because Disney World trips are a place of heightened emotions. You're in a room with your whole family for a long time. There's a lot that can and will go wrong, and you need to plan ahead for how you're going to handle that. All right, the next group of folks who are going to hate Disney World, the climate controlled. Man, I fall into a lot of these categories. It's kind of upsetting, actually. All right, if you hate humidity, that's me. You're going to have a real rough time in Florida. Summer temperatures regularly hit above 90 degrees, and the humidity in Florida is no joke. Seriously, you guys know I live in Texas. It is real hot here. I will take a 115-degree day in Texas over a 90-degree day in Florida any day. It is so much different when you've got that humidity that you're just kind of swimming through. You can also expect regular thunderstorms, showers for a good half of the year. And just because it's crazy hot during the day doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be hot or cold during the day. It could be either. If you know you can't deal with the extremes of Florida's weather, avoid traveling during the hottest and wettest months, which are June through September. And remember, hurricane season is June through November. Things start to cool off in October and stay that way through April. You'll still have hot days and thunderstorms. You also might have some super cold days in December and January. Check the weather in advance. Be prepared with those layers, misting fans, whatever you need to get through whatever the swamps can throw at you. If you want pretty perfect weather, I would suggest booking a trip in November, maybe March. So keep in mind, crowds can be heavier around spring break and Thanksgiving. That's your trade-off. But if you're like me and you're planning out your next opportunity for AC, then definitely work in some breaks in your schedule. Okay, number 7, people who are going to hate Disney World, the super duper budget conscious. People who are going to look at their bank account every single night and mourn the dwindling balance. You can't have fun if all you're thinking about is money, and there's no way around it. Just like crowds, spending a lot of money on your Disney World trip comes with the territory. There are ways to save on your trip. We've got videos on all the discounts you can find on hotels, vacation packages, dining, souvenirs, everything that goes into a Disney trip, but it's still going to be expensive. If you won't be able to have fun because you're spending too much money, then wait a couple of years to save more and feel more comfortable with the cost. If there's one thing I learned in my 20s, it's overspending equals regret. You're not going to enjoy the thing you spend too much money on. So get yourself to the point where it's not quite as much of a hit when you get that bill at the end of the trip. All right, the next group of people who really might not do well at Disney World are people who actually want to relax on their vacation. I know what you're saying. Yes, it is possible to relax in Disney World, but you're spending an awful lot of money to lounge by a pool. There are much cheaper places to do that. Make sure to pace yourself so you don't feel overwhelmed by all of the doing stuff that comes with visiting Disney World, and give yourself a little bit of downtime. It is possible to find balance in Disney World and not come home completely exhausted. Plan a day where you sleep in, maybe order room service breakfast, come back to the hotel midday for some pool time. Just probably don't spend multiple days sleeping in and hanging by the pool, or you might feel like you wasted a lot of money on those park tickets. You also might consider making your Disney World vacation a full Florida vacation. Beach lovers aren't going to enjoy Disney World too much either. The beaches in Disney World are not really beaches. Yeah, you can sit on some sand, but you can't go in the water. You can drive about an hour from Disney World and get to a beach, so consider tacking on a few days of relaxation after your Disney World trip. Then you get the best of both. And a lot of people do those land and sea vacations where you do a few days in Disney World and then you take a Disney cruise. Now, there's a lot to do on a Disney cruise, but you can also really find some good relaxation time. So that might be where you take your vacation from your vacation. And another group of people who may not be real happy with Disney World or who may downright hate it are those who want more culture out of their vacation. At the end of the day, Walt Disney World is a theme park. It is not Paris. It is not visiting the Louvre. It's fun. You'll have some great moments with your family, but you're doing it while riding inside a flying elephant surrounded by princesses and a talking mouse. Disney is fun, obviously. I love it. It's my career. But it's not the most culturally enlightening experience. There are certainly some teaching moments for your kids, and Disney has done a great job of incorporating incorporating different cultures where they fit in the parks. Epcot, after all, has some great exhibits showing aspects of cultures around the world and plenty of theme park safe cultural foods to try. Those things are definitely enjoyable, but it's not quite the same as visiting another country for real. If your typical family vacation involves traveling the world, Disney might not be a repeat destination for you, but don't write it off as something you won't enjoy necessarily. Disney World seriously has something for everyone. I'm sure you'll find rides, restaurants, experiences you'll enjoy. It's not all princesses and talking mice, and we've got plenty of videos to help you find your perfect Disney World trip, but be aware, there is a trade-off. If you decide to travel around the world and literally go to a different country, then you're gonna learn a lot more most likely, but it could also be a more stressful vacation. If you go to Disney World, there's less to figure out day to day, and you can sort of turn off a little bit more than you would be able to if you were in a foreign country where you don't speak the language and you don't understand the financial system. And I just say this from experience. I've traveled solo around the world. I've been to a lot of countries that are not my culture in which I grew up, and it's not always an easy vacation to do that, whereas Disney World tends to get chosen because it is a relatively easy vacation. Even though you're going, and there's a lot of planning involved, it's not necessarily mentally as exhausting as trying to figure out another culture. So I hope that makes sense. I think both types of vacations are incredibly valuable and absolutely amazing, but you gotta be prepared for which one you're taking. Now, like I just said, Disney World has something for everyone. I'm convinced even those who might think they'll hate Disney can find something to enjoy. I've heard a lot of stories from people with family members who were very anti-Disney before they went, only to become maybe not Disney lovers, but they definitely enjoyed themselves a lot more than expected. So let us know, do you have any converted Disney haters in your life or people who handled it better than you expected? We'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if you're someone who thought you'd hate Disney but actually ended up enjoying it, we'd love to hear from you too. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful. As you know, our bottom line is always trying to make sure that if you do decide to go to Disney, you have a great trip. So sometimes videos like this can be helpful for people to really get a full understanding of what to expect if they do decide to go. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.